As the finale of the season, there's obviously going to be spoilers in this video, so you've been warned. I'm just going to dive right into it, talk about what I liked and disliked, and give you my overall thoughts on this episode. So starting off with what I liked, first and foremost is Tom Hiddleston. His performance in this episode is exemplary. Despite what I might think about some of the writing or the story and construction, all of that of this whole season or series, I still have to admit that Tom Hiddleston is a phenomenal actor and just completely brings it in the role of Loki. He really owns that role. The whole purpose of this episode, really culminates at the end where Loki essentially assumes the role of He Who Remains, becoming what is known as the God of Stories. So it kind of completes his God arc that he's been on pretty much since the beginning of the MCU. But if you want to talk about his reset with the season 1 of Loki, it kind of completes that arc then and there, where he assumes the role as basically overseeing all the multiverses and timelines and ensuring their survival. The acting is phenomenal, as I mentioned. Tom Hiddleston really brings it to the role, brings so much gravitas to the performance of Loki, and I thought that was really perfectly acted, and you felt the drama in that moment with what he was doing, what he was achieving, and what it meant for his character. But perhaps most importantly, he actually got to be the hero of his own series, which is kind of strange in that this is Loki, who's meant to be an anti-hero at best, but he really was the hero here. And that was nice to see that he wasn't subverted in any way. They didn't do the bait and switch thing where someone else came in, namely a female, to be the hero. No, he got to be the hero and save the day in his own show. So that was nice to see, and it was good to that he gets that kind of reward at the end that he deserves. So yeah, believe it or not, I do have nice things to say about this episode, as I've just listed, but I'm going to get into now the things that I disliked about it. And starting off, which is something I kind of already mentioned, which is that everything important really happened at the end of this episode. You could say that this episode is the really the only thing you need to watch of the whole season, but I'd go a step further and say that basically everything that happens in the last 10-15 minutes is really all you need to see to know where Loki goes character-wise in this whole season. This episode basically renders the previous 5.5 episodes as mute, because the scene where they basically return to the finale scene of season 1 with He Who Remains, Kang and Sylvie, and they keep going back and back and back to that scene as Loki jumps between them back and forth. It basically renders everything that came before in the season as just irrelevant. It didn't need to happen because it was always leading to this moment anyway. So it's just kind of a silly decision in that regard. I get what they're trying to do to kind of surprise and present a twist to the audience, but they don't understand this kind of undercuts everything that they've tried to build throughout this whole season and the meaning behind all of that. Another thing I disliked, and this actually comes back to something I praised, is that at the very end of this episode, he's essentially God Loki again. He reassumes his role, albeit as a different type of God that he normally was, not as like a sinister one or anything like that, or the God of mischief, but now he's the God of stories. And it was cool to see him in that mode, being a god again. And it just got me thinking, it's we've had 2 seasons of Loki, so 12 episodes of TV, and this is the only 10-15 minute segment where we got to see him actually being a god, not just being dressed up in regular boring clothes with a tie and just doing mundane tasks. Now he was actually finally doing godlike things, and it just made me think, it's such a shame that they've wasted so much time on pointless stuff when we want to see Loki being a god, whether it's the God of mischief or the God of stories or whatever. Just being a god is what we want to see him being. And another thing that bugged me is that, as I mentioned before, they keep revisiting the scene from the end of season 1 where he meets He Who Remains and he's with Sylvie there, and it's the scene where Sylvie kills He Who Remains, which caused all this disaster. He keeps going back to the scene, repeating to fight Sylvie, to stop her, to try stopping her from killing He Who Remains. And it just seems completely unbelievable to me that he can keep going back a million times and he can't work out how to defeat Sylvie. This is just pathetic. He's Loki. He's not just a god, he's actually a skilled fighter. He should be able to take her on and say, okay, if he keeps losing to her, figure out a way to beat her. He's got infinite opportunities to do so, and he just can't do it. And I get it that he's maybe pulling his punches a bit. He doesn't actually want to kill her, which is what leads to his actual decision that he makes in the episode. But still, it just seems like a stupid thing that they had to show that and as if he couldn't defeat her. And I think just goes back to the whole kind of thing that we're seeing, overarching sort of elements that we're seeing with a lot of Disney, Marvel and Star Wars shows, where they just do not want to see a male character overpowering a female character. I think that's really evident here. But look, with that all said, I have to say that I would consider this episode a decent episode by this series' standards. I'm not going to say it's amazing or wonderful or anything like that, but I do definitely think that there were some really decent and strong elements to it that I enjoyed. And so I have to give it credit there. And I think it was perhaps one of the better, if not the best episode of this season. And so that was nice to see. I was pleasantly enjoying myself while watching this episode, as opposed to always usually being like frustrated or wondering, why is this relevant, why is this happening, like what does this matter, why is this dragging. I felt like they actually finally were getting to the point now in this season, and it's a shame that they left so many things to the end, but hey, made for a better episode, so I'll give it credit where it's due. Anyways, guys, that's my overall thoughts on this episode of Loki. What did you think about it? I'd love to hear all your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.